5 days alone in a snowstorm, bushcraft shelter and survival. A heavy snowstorm rages as the wind howls through the desolate wilderness. Alone, with no shelter in sight, I brace myself for what might be the toughest challenge of my life. 5 days in freezing temperatures with nothing but the bare essentials. My name is your name, and this is my journey into the heart of the storm. The freezing cold bites at my skin, but survival is the only option. Armed with my bushcraft skills and a fierce will to live, I begin crafting a shelter, gathering firewood, and making every decision count. Each step feels heavier than the last as I face the unrelenting power of nature. Will I be able to survive, or will the storm consume everything I've worked for? As I sit next to a fragile fire, the storm grows fiercer and doubt creeps in. The shelter I built with my own hands feels inadequate against the savage forces of nature. What happens next? Will the fire keep me alive through the night? Or will I be forced to face even greater challenges? The snow continues to fall, and I know that the hardest part is yet to come. Stay tuned for the next part of this incredible survival story. The fire crackles weakly, the flickering light barely pushing back the darkness that surrounds me. The wind howls louder, its icy fingers creeping under the small shelter I've built. The snow outside is relentless, falling in thick sheets that quickly cover the ground, making it almost impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. It's a test of patience and resilience, and with every passing hour, the weight of the storm seems to bear down harder. I think back to when I first set out on this journey, determined to push myself beyond my comfort zone, to test my limits and see if I could truly survive on my own. But now, in the heart of this unforgiving wilderness, I realize how unprepared I truly was. The shelter, a makeshift structure of branches and snow, is holding up for now, but I know it won't last forever. As the night drags on, the temperature plummets further. I can feel my breath fogging in the freezing air, and every muscle in my body aches from the cold. I need to find a way to reinforce the shelter, gather more firewood, and brace for the worst. But as I gather my thoughts, I hear something. A rustle in the distance. Is it an animal, or is it something far worse? The storm howls louder, masking any other sounds, but the unease settles deep within me. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, survival in a world that shows no mercy. And I'm not sure if I'm ready. As the night stretches on, my thoughts begin to spiral, each one darker than the last. The wind outside has turned from a fierce howl to a relentless scream, pushing against the fragile walls of my shelter. The rustling noise I heard earlier hasn't repeated, but the unease in my chest remains. I focus on the fire, keeping my hands close to the warmth, though it feels like the flames are no match for the cold creeping in from every corner. I know I can't let the fire die. If it does, my chances of making it through the night become slimmer. I try to calm my racing mind. The storm is the real enemy, not the creeping fear inside me. I remind myself that I've survived worse. This is just another test, another challenge to face head on. Yet, as I look out into the swirling snow, I wonder how much longer I can keep this up. I've been rationing my food, but the limited supplies won't last forever. And the shelter? I can only pray it holds as the storm intensifies. There's a knot in my stomach, a gnawing sense of urgency that I can't shake. Suddenly, there's another sound, closer this time. A crunching of snow, slow and deliberate. My heart skips a beat. Is it a wild animal? Or could someone else be out here? I strain my ears, but the wind drowns out everything. I can't risk going outside to investigate, not with the storm at its peak. My thoughts race again. What if I'm not alone in this wilderness? What if someone else is out here, struggling like me? Or worse, My pulse quickens as I sit in the darkness, my eyes fixed on the door of the shelter, straining to hear anything above the roar of the storm. The crunching of snow grows louder now, closer with each passing second. Whoever or whatever this is, it's not a figment of my imagination. I can feel the air around me grow heavier, the silence before the storm's full fury making every sound feel amplified. The fire flickers weakly, casting erratic shadows that dance on the walls, making the place feel even more isolated. My breath is shallow, each exhale a small cloud in the freezing air. I weigh my options quickly. Do I stay here and hope that whatever is out there doesn't find me? Or do I try to confront it to make sure I'm not walking straight into danger? My gut tells me to wait, but the fear gnaws at me, pushing me toward the unknown. The storm is so intense now, visibility is near zero. I have no choice but to make a decision, stay hidden in my fragile shelter, and hope the night passes, or take action and risk everything. The decision comes down to survival. I grab the small axe by my side and brace myself. The crunching sound grows louder. Time is running out. My hand tightens around the axe as the crunching sound draws nearer. The shelter feels too small, too fragile to protect me from whatever's out there. Every second stretches into eternity as I wait, heart hammering in my chest. The storm outside continues to rage, but the sound from the snow is unmistakable now. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, crunching with purpose. My breath is shallow, the cold creeping deeper into my bones. I hear it just outside the shelter. Then a voice, software, almost muffled by the wind, but unmistakably human. Hello? Is anyone there? I freeze, my grip on the axe loosening slightly in disbelief. A voice, in the middle of nowhere, during a storm this intense? The odds seem impossible. I hesitate, weighing my options. Could this be a trap? Is someone else out here looking for shelter? Or is it something worse? Another survivor desperate and willing to do whatever it takes to make it through the storm. The voice calls out again, this time with a sense of urgency. Please, I need help. I should answer. I should offer help. But something about the situation feels wrong, like a tug at the back of my mind, warning me to be cautious. The storm is fierce, and I have no idea who or what is out there. But the longer I wait, the more the tension builds. I'm not just battling the elements anymore. I'm battling uncertainty and the fear of what might happen next. The voice calls out again, more desperate this time. I can't ignore it any longer. I take a deep breath, steeling myself, and slowly push open the door of the shelter. The wind instantly assaults me, cutting through my clothes as if they were nothing more than paper. I squint through the blinding snow, my heart racing, and then I see it. A figure in the distance, barely visible through the storm. They're staggering, struggling against the wind, but they're moving toward me. I take a cautious step forward, gripping the axe tightly, every muscle in my body tense. As I approach, the figure stumbles and falls. Without thinking, I rush to them, reaching out. Hey, are you okay? I call out, my voice barely audible over the storm. The person looks up at me, and for a moment, I think I see relief in their eyes. But then, without warning, they grab my arm with surprising strength, pulling me toward them. Panic surges through me, but I manage to break free. In that instant, I realize the truth. The person isn't looking for help. They're a threat, and now I'm the one in danger. Before I can react, a shout rings out from behind me. Get away from him! A second figure emerges from the snow, running toward us. The realization hits me like a punch. I've been led into a trap. I turn, but it's too late. The storm rages on, and my fight for survival is far from over. I scramble backward, heart pounding in my chest as the second figure approaches. The first person, still gripping my arm, is trying to regain their footing, but I've already made my move. My instincts take over. I swing the axe with everything I've got, keeping them at bay. The snow around us feels thick, suffocating, but in this moment, it's the only thing separating me from them. Then, the second figure reaches me, and I'm faced with a choice, fight or flee. With a burst of adrenaline, I break free and sprint back toward the shelter, my breath ragged and shallow. I can barely see through the blinding snow, but I know I can't stay out here. The storm is still relentless, and I'm running on empty. I finally make it back to the shelter, slamming the door shut behind me. The two figures are gone, lost in the blizzard. But I know I'm not safe. The storm hasn't stopped, and neither has the fight for survival. It's a harsh world out here, and the wilderness shows no mercy. As I sit there, exhausted and shaken, I realize that survival isn't just about weathering the storm, it's about knowing when to fight and when to walk away. And sometimes the greatest enemy isn't nature, but the choices we make in the face of it.